Welcome to another episode of the Take a Look podcast. Today we're actually recording a different type of podcast where we're having the ladies on from EXP. This episode is a RealTea episode, pun intended. Check out the spelling. Anyways, we have today in the studio Dominique, Rachel, and Nicole over from McIntyre Co. And welcome to the show, ladies. Let's just start off. Introduce yourselves. Who are you, and how did you guys get into real estate?
All right, start with Dom.
Sure. So I started in real estate when I was 20. At the time, I was living in Kitchener. I was working a few different random jobs. I was studying occupational and physiotherapy, decided that wasn't for me. And then I was like, what the heck am I going to do next? So at the time, a family member was in real estate. The market was horrid, but I still found it very interesting, and I loved going to her open houses, seeing what she was doing. It was just really fascinating. And at the time, I worked in a sales job, and I loved it. I loved the social interaction. I loved the customers, so I felt like it was a good fit. So started studying, moved back to this area, and then it's flown by. I'm 28 now, so that seems like a lifetime ago.
Rachel, who are you?
Hi, Rachel. Like Dom, I started when I was really young. I started getting my license when I was 20. I was also working in a sales job and didn't really know where that was going to take me. And I was doing a lot of photography and video at the time. So I was introduced to a local agent in this area, in Belleville. I was living in Toronto. She thought I would be really good at real estate and suggested I get into it. So I started getting my license and started with doing real estate photography, which has changed hilarious. So much.
That's so funny that you started out doing that.
Yeah, that was 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
And then you wised up and actually got your license instead of staying in the photography side like us fools.
But at that time, there wasn't I don't even think we were doing floor plans. There was no video tours. So it was pretty easy point and shoot, do some light staging. And then same shadowed open houses, shadowed meetings with clients and getting listings ready, and just fell in love with it. And 11 years later, what year is it? 2025. Started getting my license in 2014. So yeah.
Oh wow.
Here we are.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Does that feel just like yesterday? Veterans. Like 2014, 2015 was like that. That's still current events, right?
Yeah.
And now a decade has gone by.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild.
Nicole.
Not so much a veteran as these two. And like any good real estate agent, I started off with a degree in history. So I originally wanted to be a high school teacher. So went to Queens, got my degree in history, sociology. But at the time, there were no jobs. So real estate was always kind of an option to me. I ended up moving to Toronto. I went to Humber's Business School, did event management there, and then ended up moving to Belleville instead of staying in Toronto. So that was a little bit of a culture shock. And I finally decided to get into real estate. So I've done hospitality. I was a professional dancer for 3 years in Toronto, and then I came to Belleville, got my license, and I'm so happy I did.
Nice.
Yeah. So are we.
Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different path. Yeah.
Let's talk about the team a little bit. So Dom, obviously, as the name of the team suggests,
yes.
You are the leader. You started this team.
I'm the leader, yes.
How did that all come to be?
So I started it would have been 2020 or 2021?
Yeah, I was getting licensed in I might have been pregnant 2019.
Yeah, 2019. Mm-hmm. So at the time, just as the pandemic was starting, as we all know, the market got bananas.
That's one word for it. Yeah.
Yes.
It went crazy.
Yes. So I started my team with getting an assistant first. And then at the time, Nicole and I had connected. I actually think you won one of my giveaways, and that's how we connected. It was a Mother's Day giveaway.
I thought you guys knew each other before.
Well, we did
working.
Oh, okay.
We've known each other for over 10 years now. But anyway, we reconnected, and she said, I'm actually starting to study real estate. And I was like, what the heck?
Yeah,
no, you have to come work with me.
Shut the bleep up. Why didn't you tell me? Blah, blah, blah. She's like, I had a vision that we would be working together again. Yeah. So in true Dom fashion, she manifested.
Yes. And then before I knew it, Nicole had joined me. And so she's been my OG, which is amazing. And after that, really the growth started because she and I were going to the county a lot. And it was a big commute, which now is ironic because I think 12 of our listings are in the county. But anyway, we were there for a big stage, and then we poached Denver. We literally went in, we were like, she needs to work with us. So we got her, and then it spiraled from there. Now we're a team of 10. So
Oh, wow.
I love it. Like, I love every aspect of being a leader, except whenever I have to be
Mean.
mean. Yeah, I'm not good at being mean.
No.
But
Has to be done sometimes.
has to be done. Sometimes you got to crack the whip. But no, I love our team. I love our structure. We're all close. Like, some of the people on my team are my best friends. So I'm very grateful that I took that path, and I can't imagine what my life would look like without it.
So, like, with real estate agents, I mean, both of you have been part of different teams, and there's often a lot of kind of switching of different offices and everything until you kind of find that right fit. Well, I guess for you, Rachel, like, what was it about this team that you're like, this works for you?
Yeah. So when I started, obviously didn't have any kids, kind of was able to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And as I got older and married, more responsibility, kids, you can hear my baby crying in the background right now. What I needed out of a team really changed. And Dom and I had known each other, I guess, worked in the industry together for the last, 5-6 years. I always really liked her style and what she was doing. And she was one of those agents that would always message me, like, if you ever need anything, if you ever need help, if you ever need support, reach out. Which everybody says, but nobody actually follows through on. And I was in a spot a couple of years ago where I really needed some help and some support when my husband was deployed. And Dawn was like, I'm there. Like, we weren't working together at the time. We were with different brokerages. She was like, what do you need from me? I'm going to show up. And she came to my house and she helped me get my house ready. And that was I just knew that we were going to be good friends from there.
That's when we fell in love.
That's when we fell in love. But besides that, I've worked with a lot of great people. I've had many opportunities because I've worked really hard. But what Dom does is so different. And Nicole, I guess you haven't really experienced what it's like on the other side of real estate. But my very first meeting with the team opened up. We had these beautiful journals ready for us. And the first question was, what's your personal goal and what's your business goal? And I'd never been asked that by anybody I worked with in 10 years. And I knew that I was in the right spot.
Yeah.
Nicole, same
Yeah, well,
to you.
I've been with Dom from the beginning, but when people are talking about ever getting into real estate and, what's important to you, I just tell them, I was like, your first year of real estate, you're going to feel like you're running a marathon or an obstacle course, blindfolded, half drunk. That is it. You get put through the ringer, and you really don't know until you're actually practicing real estate and you're in it, how crazy it truly is. So for me, I've had the support from the beginning. So I don't think a lot of people can say that since the beginning they've been able to pick up their phone, text her, I call her my boss, my colleague, questions, and she immediately responds, because you get put through the ringer. And if you don't have that support, I don't know what you're doing at your brokerage or why you're staying there.
Well, it's crazy to me that people just don't realize that there is another option, right? Because they've lived something for so long. They think this is just the way that it is.
Yeah, you're an independent contractor. Yeah. You're out on your own. And you gotta just figure it out. So I'm truly lucky in that sense. And we worked really well together before we were in real estate, when we worked in hospitality together. So I had no doubts, and I saw Dom's success and the way she conducts herself in business. And I've always kind of leaned towards strong female women in business. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Some people just take longer to figure that out.
Yeah,
Rachel?
it took me a while. Yeah.
So you have 10 agents on your team, and it's all women. What is that dynamic like on a day-to-day basis? What's that team structure? How do you guys work together?
I should add, we actually do have one man. It's my...
Oh, one man. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the structure, so Holly is our admin. She's incredible. She literally keeps our ship afloat. She keeps us on our shit. So she's at the office Monday to Friday. And then in terms of working in the office, Mondays are huge for us. Those are our days. Those are our holy, sacred days. So every Monday morning we have a meeting. It's usually 2.5 hours long. We go over our personal wins of the week, business wins, objections. We all set a goal for the next week. We set our goals for how many clients we plan to touch.
You should tell them like that.
I'll leave them guessing. And then we usually do a topic of the week. Last week was wells. This week we talked about taxes and how to properly file. So I always like to think of something creative, whether it's, role playing for a specific situation. Sometimes I'll just create like a crazy little board and say, okay, this client is Crazy Bob and he wants to sell his investment, but he doesn't want to reduce a penny. So I like to do things that are just a little different, where they're actually things that we're seeing day to day. And I do like rules and things too. We go over those sometimes, but typically more like things we're going to see every day. Other than that, throughout the week, a lot of us are busy. So we truthfully don't spend a ton of time in the office, but Mondays are our day.
Nice. Well, we did want to talk today about, our topic of this episode is about being a female in this industry, and historically has been a male-dominated industry, which has been changing a lot, because I think most of our clients are actually, it's probably like a 60-40 female to male. But tell me a bit about, before joining the team, well, this goes to, I guess, Rachel and Nicole, less Nicole, because you joined right away into Dom's team. But what were some of the struggles you faced as a woman in this industry before you joined Dom's team?
Well, I think maybe the question, like, what are some of the struggles of like being a woman, and then sort of separate how that changed being with a group, because I think all of us can say, whether being in a group or not, there are aspects of real estate that can be a little bit scary. Like, you have a complete stranger who calls you up and wants to meet you at a house, and sometimes it's vacant and sometimes it's in the middle of nowhere. And we're just kind of starting to talk about safety amongst realtors, like in the last couple of years, but that really wasn't a topic of conversation, like 10 years ago. I don't know if you were ever given safety training when you started. But
never. I think only tragically, because people have started dying.
Right.
Like, literally being murdered. So now we're talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's definitely power in numbers. So when you have a big team and there's a lead that comes in through the office, you're kind of vetting them before you're going out. Like, Dom might send me somebody and say, okay, I've spoken with them, they're pre-approved, this is the house that they want to see, go get it. So I don't have to worry about, they've called just me specifically out of nowhere and they've, sort of lied. We can kind of vet them. I don't have another word for that. What am I trying to say?
Yeah. No, I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
Vet them.
We can vet them, and you feel safer going in. And we also share our location. Like, a lot of us share our location with each other, so we know where each other is. And we're on a big group chat, and everybody kind of knows, like, oh, I'm doing an open house here this weekend. I've got a showing here tonight. And it's just a way for all of us to feel safe and feel connected. And
I'm not sure a lot of men have to, sadly
Think
don't
of
have to
it.
think about that. Where a couple of years ago, there was a few months where we actually tag teamed open houses because we had a really creepy experience. Neither of us were really comfortable going to the house alone for an hour and a half, where it might have seemed a little bit excessive, but for those 2 months where that situation was kind of lingering, it provided a lot of comfort. I guess a lot of people don't probably realize, but I carry bear mace in my purse whenever I go to showings. It's not to every showing if I know the client, but you're kind of entering a home by yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's dark. Thank you, Canadian weather. Like sometimes it's dark. So just a lot of things you don't have to think of. Plus, just being in a male dominated, industry, you have to almost work twice as hard. I would say that we know more about every facet of house in construction and wells and septics than the average Joe. So I think it's kind of interesting when you're at those inspections, when the dad comes along, he thinks he knows everything, not that you have to prove yourself, you have to show your value, but I think even more so, you have to be an expert in many different fields in this job, especially being a woman, because you do have to
the classic dad coming in. That's not to code.
Oh, yeah.
That's not to code.
That's not to code. You're like, what?
When I was first starting, I remember that used to intimidate me so much. And I always knew, like, I'm the type, I literally would go and mark every part of the house with sticky notes. So I knew exactly what everything was called. Like, I'm that type of person where I need to know every single detail. And then I started meeting these buyers' dads, and they would literally, they just don't respect you. Again, I was very young. And a woman, so they would come in and go, yeah, look at this fuse box, and I'd literally be staring at them like, that's a breaker panel. Like, you don't even know what you're talking about. And like, then they start looking at the wiring. This is aluminum for sure. And like, no,
It's not.
This is copper. Like, and it's so frustrating. And in the beginning, I was very polite and, you know, more passive. And now literally I'm like, all right, brother, I'll go outside and change your tire right now. Like, don't mess with me.
How do you deal with that kind of, well, I guess let's call it for what it is, sexism. How do you deal with that in the moment when you're experiencing someone who's obviously not giving you the respect or credibility that you deserve in that context? Like, what do you...
So I would say I do try to balance the energy. So if I can tell it's like a very masculine energy, I know that's not going to work well if I try to combat that with more masculine energy in the moment and try to prove myself. Like, you kind of have to push the ego away and just accept it sometimes, which is sad. But it's always just with education. Like, you can always combat any sort of sexism, any doubt, any lack of confidence with education.
Yeah, kill them with knowledge.
Kill
not
them with
kindness.
knowledge,
Yeah.
always. And it's worked time and time again. I literally had an electrician offer me a job on the spot once after saying,
Oh,
like,
really?
no,
That's
you're
amazing.
wrong. Yeah. So it works. It's still very troubling. Like, the other day I had a buyer's dad asking a question about the longevity of a well and when it would need to be replaced. And I just, like, you just sit back for a second and...
It's just sometimes people come in and they have something to prove, and they see this young girl maybe driving a nice car, maybe dressed well, and
Maybe sexy.
they want to prove that they know more and that they're important and that they have value, and that's great, and you can recognize that for what it is. But you know, sometimes when you're being talked down to and people have a tone of being a little condescending, you have to, you know, show your value, show what you know, and don't really back down. And like Dom said, you're not combating that energy because that's just going to go nowhere. You're not going to try and start a win. You're not trying to win something. You're just also standing up for yourself in the moment. So
You basically need a sociology degree just to read
That's
these
right.
people.
That's right. Came in handy. Well, it was 4 years of
Yesterday,
university not going to waste.
I was showing a house to a lady that brought a friend to have a look at the house for her, and there's a man, and this is not to bash man. It's just like we opened the door and he had to find something immediately. He goes, "That stove's not to code." I was like, "Oh, it's interesting that you think that. You know, why is the stove not to code?" "Oh, well, because it needs to be at least 4 inches higher than the countertop." Oh, I've never heard that. Like, where did you learn that? And then it's through asking questions and engaging and not being rude that he realizes he doesn't know what he's talking about. And she, you know.
When really we know when we're asking these questions, we're like, you don't know what you're talking about. But we'll go along with this.
Go along with it. Yeah. That's the first thing. I'm like, that's what we're going to talk about? The stove's not to code? All right.
You find it's mainly a generational thing that you're dealing with for that kind of sexism, or is this, do you find
actually,
that's kind
I
of...
guess. Well,
I would say no, because
No?
it's still like the Gen Zs even, they will come in and suggest, oh, I'll have my dad look at it. And I'm like, your dad doesn't know more than me. Like, I don't know how many times, like, I have literally seen thousands of homes. Your parents have what, transacted 3 times?
right.
Right.
Period.
And clients are one thing, right? But then other agents who you're on the other end of a deal with, negotiating and fighting things out with, do you experience that that kind of sexism in that
Yes,
context as well?
absolutely.
What does that look like?
I
I'm
can
talking
think
mad
of
shit right
no,
now. Rachel.
I can think of specific like circumstances, and it's just not to call anybody out, but I think that what I find is that really they want to battle about clauses, and I would say that that's women and men who are dealing with a younger woman, is they want to try and pick apart your offer to prove that they know more, and that they're better than you, essentially, just ego. And, you know, like Dom's probably experienced this a million times, but we put in a lot of time and effort into our offers. Sometimes there's mistakes, and that's fine. But I think that it's always blown my mind. We're a small community. We're all working together, and we all have to continue to do deals together. So why am I going to try and make you feel small and upset you and make you feel like you're less than, when I know I'm going to have to do a deal with you again in the future? Like, let's all be kind to each other, work together. And that was, again, going back to the team, that was the biggest thing with the team dynamic, is like, we all want each other to succeed. But everywhere else where I've worked before, you know, real estate, yeah, you are still independent. Everybody, it could be cutthroat. You're all kind of fighting for clients and fighting for business, but there's enough business to go around. So I know that wasn't necessarily your direct question to me, but I think just being a young woman in the industry, you actually experience it from both men and women. But I'm not specifically calling men out with that one.
Yeah, the best deals are the ones where there's mutual respect from both sides. And it's just, if you're confident in your offer or your listing and your knowledge, then that's all you need.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the industry is changing? Like as the boomers are kind of slowly retiring?
The boomers are booming?
Maybe not quick enough. But do you find that the industry is changing on that level, or are we still stuck in this old way of?
You know what? I would say yes.
Years?
I think we are. I think our generation coming in, is a lot more willing to get
and we've created like a network. When I first started, and again, like social media and everything has really changed that, but we didn't have group chats going with, you know, realtors outside of all the other brokerages. And now I know like there's a handful of agents that work, you know, in other brokerages who we would like to come to EXP. But, that I know that I can, you know, call them and rely on them. And if I do a deal with them, like, we're going to get this done together and we're going to work together. And that's really nice. And that really is probably like the 35 and under.
Yeah. You want to be the agent where, you know, when you're like, oh, my clients want to offer on this home, you check who the agent is and you're like, yes, it's them. Like, you want to be that agent where people go, yes, it's them. Yeah. They're great to work with. They know what they're talking about. They're not an asshole. Yeah. Like, we can get it done.
Yeah. Literally the other day I called Brendan and I was like, Brendan, what do we need to do to get this house?
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. And we're a small community. Like, Belleville's growing and we have all the surrounding areas that we pull from, but truly it's a small knit community still. So
well, I think of like successful agents who just
I was just going to say it's an even smaller network of agents that are producing now too. Like, I feel like since the pandemic it's niched a lot further, where you're transacting with many of the same agents time and time again.
Yeah. Well, and I think how you do business is so much more paramount than even the business itself now. Totally. I think that's probably the biggest change in our generation for doing things.
Right.
It's like when we bought our house, like the reason we got the heads up that it was coming back on the market is because our agent has a great reputation of working well with others.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're not going to prioritize that, and if you're going to be an asshole and treat people poorly, then, you know,
your mic attacked you.
But then, if you see that, you know, the caller ID come up and you're like, oh, it's like, how is that benefiting your client in any way, right?
Yeah.
That is something that I think people don't think about when they're choosing a listing agent. Somebody comes in and might be a bit of a bully and be a bit hard, and they think, oh, this person's going to fight for me and be on my side. But they don't realize that they're then a handful of agents that, again, are going to see that listing agent's name and go, I'd rather not do an offer with them. I don't really want to sell their house. Why am I going to try and make a person money that's been mean to me every time I've talked to them for the last 5 years? So
I wonder if we're all thinking the same name, right?
Oh, I think we are, actually. But it's not even if they're being mean, but if they just don't show you that respect.
Totally.
Or you feel like they're trying to leverage you in a way that is uncomfortable or inappropriate. And it's just like, just be straight up with me.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that is kind of, we'll shit on boomers here a lot. That's fine.
But
I think
you deal with that exact
way
same
of doing things.
Yeah,
right?
you
like
deal with that exact same thing too,
100%.
right? You get the call from whatever agent. You're like, great, and they're like, can you be here tonight at 6:00? Like, well, I'll pay you extra. You're like, we don't work that way. They're not respecting your time.
I've had agents literally wave money in front of my face, and it is the most dehumanizing
gosh.
thing.
Wow.
It's like, I am not a whore. I'm like, I mean, I took the money, but still, it is disrespectful though, right? Because you're not treating me as an equal. You're not treating me as subservient in some weird
Also
way.
to imply that I need that.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
like,
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I took the money.
I took it, but I wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, that's right. I have the story. That's what I got out of it. But well, talk to me about motherhood in this industry. What is that like? Because real estate is like
Wild.
a 24-hour thing.
Yeah.
Hence why I am not a real estate agent. I done on the weekends, and I tell you to email
Oh, how
me on
nice.
Monday. But,
Yeah.
Nice to be done on the weekends.
but having kids obviously throws a whole other dynamic in there. What is your experience been like as parents?
Yeah, I mean, I've only ever done it with kids. I was pregnant when I was studying, and then I think I went back with my second kid at like 4 months, part-time back to work. But you just have to be better at structuring your day. That's what it boils down to. This is your job. Your clients need you, and your clients need you. And, you have to do the best you can. You have to rely on your team sometimes, which is a huge benefit. But at the same time, it's still your job, your responsibility. So if you have to be somewhere at 4, you have to be somewhere at 4. So I would say hire parents 100%, because the amount of scheduling and juggling that they're doing in a day, they've already done 15 things before somebody's alarm's going off in the morning. So I trust those people to get it done, to juggle what they need to juggle. But it definitely comes with its struggles for sure. And you can't play the comparison game. I know that my career would be in a different spot if I didn't have young kids right now, and that's fine. I'm going to get there eventually. I can't compare myself to the amount of deals that Dom's doing, because I just don't have those hours in the day because I have kids, but that's fine. I've accepted that. I'm happy with where I am and where I am with my clients. Like, they trust me wholeheartedly. So yeah, it's just ebbs and flows.
Yeah. Well, what are some of those practical challenges that you face as a mother in the industry itself? Because like I say, it is a 24-hour thing. You could get an offer coming in at all hours.
5 p.m. on a Tuesday. Yeah. I say real estate happens. Your phone starts ringing at 5 p.m. Once your kids are off the bus and home from school, then your phone starts to buzz and you're like, come on, this is the worst timing ever.
Yeah.
But I think you just have to be calm, cool, and collected about it, and deal with the situations as they come. And honestly, a lot of clients are very respectful, and they're like, oh yeah, no, that's totally fine. But at the end of the day, you have an irrevocable, you have a timeline. So you just have to get it done. I don't know how else to explain it.
Well, yeah. And I think for me, the biggest difference was like when I had my son, which is our middle son, at home, I was really panicked about people knowing that I had a kid, people then not trusting me, going back to like the issues that women have in business, but especially mothers. I didn't want clients to think, oh, she doesn't have time for me. And so I think that I wasn't good at setting boundaries for myself, and I tried to take on more to try and prove like, hey, look, I can do it all. And I actually ended up having one of like my highest earning years the year that I had my son, but at the end of the year, like, I didn't feel good about it. And so I knew having Kellen, our baby, that was I was pregnant when I moved to the team, right? I was like, I cannot do that again. I want to set a goal, which Dom is really good at. Set your goal for the year. What amount do you want to make? And then schedule it. Like, lean on your team for support. You have people who can help you. And that is the challenge, is that you can't predict when people are going to call you, when they want to see houses, and you will always have that fear of like, if I don't say yes, somebody else will. No, I'm not going to get the money when you're working for commission. But being able to spread it out and working with people that you rely on, that you're not giving it away blindly. You're still going to get a portion of that, and you can work together with somebody to get the deal done, which feels really good to have that. And I feel much more relaxed at home with my baby now.
Going back to the organization bit too, I find when you have a proper goal and you know exactly how much you need to do in a day, exactly what you need to do, it relieves so much stress. Like, obviously, I'm not a mom, so I'm not talking on that part of things, but if you aren't sitting there spiraling all day thinking, shit, I'm not doing what I should be doing, and then you look down and go, actually, I did my 5 follow-ups today, like, I'm good. I'm actually doing what I need to be doing, then it relieves that stress. So it's, I think for any woman too. Like we take on a lot more typically in a role, whether it's a relationship, if you're single, there's a lot of things we have to do in a day. I mean, I'm a dog mom, so I have to let my dogs out a few times a day.
And I love that my kids see that I'm working.
Yeah.
Like, you know, time and place, obviously, and there's a time for family time and a time for work. But, you know, my girls know that mommy goes to work. My daughter says she wants to be a realtor when she's older, and she wants to go to work with mommy, and she wants to see houses. And I think that's really cool that they're seeing, you know, a strong female figure. And it's not just daddy going to work every day. It's mommy's going, and, you know, daddy's home, and really daddy's a parent just as much as mommy. So.
Period.
How has joining Dom's team, having a female leader, has that, well, I guess, has it affected you positively in that work-life balance? And how so? Like, how does that, how has that really helped with with the challenges of being a mother, being a woman in this industry?
I remember coming home from my first meeting and just saying to my husband, like, gushing to him, like, I could not believe what we went over in our meeting. Like, it was only 2 hours, but I feel inspired. I feel like this could be so good for me. I'm going to learn organizational skills that I never have. I'm going to track my clients in a way that I've never tracked before. Dom has spreadsheets in place, and she's got all these sort of little tricks to make everything seamless and make our jobs a lot easier. And again, these are things that hadn't been introduced to me in 10 years of working with lots of different people. And really, she really motivates us and like holds us accountable. Every Monday we set a goal of how many clients we're going to talk to, and we have to have that follow up at the next Monday. Did you meet that goal? How did that go? What are new clients from that? What are your clients saying? Like, it's just been, I've been able to stay home a lot more with my daughter, and I feel like I'm being a lot more productive. So it's been a win-win overall. Yeah.
What do you find is the biggest difference between, because you've worked in other brokerages, what do you find has been the biggest, or what are some of the differences?
There's a very like casual yet professional feel when you walk through the door at Dom's, where like, again, you don't feel like you're walking in to compete with a bunch of people. You're walking in to support each other, which like sounds really cheesy, but it's true. Like, that's just what's happening. And I didn't really know that could exist in real estate before. You know, office meetings always felt like you were going in to be like, look at all the business that I'm doing. It was sort of the vibe as you go around the table, go around the group, like, and that is not what's happening at our office meetings. And everybody is supporting each other. Oh, you did an offer. That's amazing. Oh, you got new listings.
We literally clap.
Great. Yeah.
It's like the airplane landing. We all start clapping.
Yeah. And then also the brokerage, with the brokerage offers, it's very different. EXP is still relatively new in Canada. The model is completely different than every other brokerage. So I think that for, you know, people curious about it, there's a lot of questions because they don't understand how it works, because there is a new way to do it. We're kind of getting rid of that old formula. And they're a very innovative company, changing the structure to suit the needs of the people that work for them all the time, which is really cool. And so with that comes freedom and flexibility, because really it just translates to more money in your pocket at the end of the day.
I'm going to cough again.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
Nice.
Get it out of you.
Okay.
Again, how many times do we reschedule this? Because we're parents, and it's cough and or
And your kids cough into your mouth.
Yeah.
They go collect the village germs and bring them home to you.
Yes.
And yes, it's...
And they're sick for a day, and then we're out for a week.
I know.
I preach to my team all the time. It's like, get vitamin C in you, get in the sauna, exercise once a day.
Yeah.
Get the sunlight in your eyes.
Yeah, and then we still all get sick anyways.
Yeah. Worth a shot.
Yeah. Well, why did you bring the team to EXP? Why is this brokerage a better fit for you?
So initially, I thought EXP would be a good fit. Even when I was a solo agent, I had considered it. And I was going to make a switch in like 2019, and then I had a surgery. It delayed it. But the numbers always made sense to me at first. That was initially the big thing. Like, when you're a high earning agent, obviously you start looking at, okay, where is this money going? Like, you're giving away sometimes, 50 to 100 grand a year to someone, and then you sit back and go, what am I spending that on? So it got to a point where that was a priority. And then also being in a leadership role, EXP offers a ton in terms of being a leader. So you get revenue share, you get stock in the company. There are a million benefits that I thought would be a great fit. But the number one thing I think would be collaboration. With EXP specifically, there are so many different teams that we collaborate with. Some of them have become close friends. Some of them have become boyfriends. Denver's now dating someone on another EXP team.
So if you're
realtors don't date other realtors, right? Doesn't happen.
So anyway, I loved that bit too, is the collaboration. Now, one of my other EXP partners is my partner in another business. So it's a really great collaborative company, and I really loved that aspect of it. And I think when thinking about your team overall and, who you want to associate the whole team with, it made sense, and our values and our goals and the motivations really aligned. And with EXP specifically, there are so many larger agents, which was sweet, because being at an independent brokerage previously, it was like, okay, once you're at the top, like,
then
what else do you have?
Who are you learning from?
Who are you learning from? Yeah, where now it's like, I am learning something every day. There's something I can always join, whether it's a Zoom, going to a conference. I'm heading to Ottawa tomorrow for a conference. So there's always something you can do. Someone who knows more, someone who's making more, someone who can teach you how to make more. Not that it's necessarily all money-based, but we don't work to not make money.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a key thing that I think our generation really craves is mentorship, and that's something that is so hard to find. We have that in our industry. We're part of a group across North America that we can learn from, and there's weekly
Sessions.
Yes. Workshops. That's the word I was looking for.
Nice.
Weekly workshops to learn from and everything, and I think that's the toughest thing. Is there's this mentality where people think that, oh, now I've got the skill, and now there's no more growth.
With EXP, you're just getting hit constantly. Like, once I have the time to tap into all of that, it's going to be great. Right now, I don't. I get the emails.
Why don't you have time, Rachel? What's happening?
I get the emails and I can see them. I get actually the notifications. I don't even know if I open all of them, but that's one really cool thing about the company that was really different from where it was before, is like, join this training seminar, join us in Ottawa, join us in Montreal, join us in Miami. And like, their keynote speakers are huge. They really want their agents to grow and learn. And even for agents who are beginners, it seems like there's endless tutorials online and even sessions that you can join, like, all for free, to really build yourself up and feel confident going into the industry. Whereas I know I can't really speak to this, but I know a lot of agents who are new and are excited and join a team, and they're just thrown to the wolves. Okay, go. And they're like, well, I don't even know how to do an offer. What do I say to a client? Like, how do I book a showing? How do I contact the lawyers? There's so many things that come up. And again, to bring back to having somebody that you can text and rely on. And that is a cool thing about having a team with such diverse agents. When our group chat, okay, I've got a question about condo fees. I've got a question about zoning. You're going to type it in and somebody's going to have the answer. You're pulling from everybody's experience, which is really cool.
I would say, back to the collaboration bit, something really important to note is our business can be very lonely too, which is very bizarre because we're literally constantly communicating with people, but it's very lonely in the sense that nobody really understands the stress and the struggles of being an agent unless you're an agent, and also nobody respects it because they think, well, you make enough money, so shut up. Like,
or they think you're like a
you're not
used car
entitled to
salesman
be
or something.
Yeah,
it's got like a weird vibe still.
I don't really think they truly comprehend the amount of stress we take in a day and the amount of like, if you think of how stressful one sale is for you personally as a buyer or seller, we're maybe dealing with 20 people.
And then add in the context of, what is it like? I don't know what the percentage is, but death and divorce is keeping us busy,
100%,
right? So you're coming in with a very an emotionally heavy context that everybody wants to pass on to the next person.
And even birth. I mean, there have been countless times where I've been the first person to know that someone is pregnant.
Oh, wow.
It's
Right.
like, that's a really beautiful thing, but that's also still a big moment for people, and it's stressful and it's emotional, and you just become a sponge and you suck this in all day long, and then you go home and have to perform.
How was your day, honey?
Yeah.
And you say, it was fine. Because you're like, I don't even know
Yeah,
where to
you're like,
start.
I don't even know what to
where to
talk about.
start.
How
The
do
amount of times
So-
I've gotten in the car and then just been like, oh, and like shake it off.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that kind of emotional weight? Because it is like, I
Just
think,
bottle up and explode. No.
You get
Sins.
better
Like,
at not taking it on, for sure.
Yeah.
I know before I wanted to kind of like be the hero and help solve it for people and, you know, take the phone calls, and wasn't as good at setting boundaries when I was 20 as I am now. But
It's also little things like just like reaching out to our group chat being like, hey, you know that situation that was bonkers last week? It smoothed itself over. We're going to close. And then having people that are like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like if you explain that to a family member who's not in this business, where you're like, oh my gosh, this was like a deal from hell. We clawed through it. They're like, oh, that's great, honey. And you're like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Like when you have people that understand what you go through on a day-to-day basis and have that validation of like, yeah, no, you worked your ass off for that.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
very rewarding. I don't think that was your question, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
No, and I think that really does tie in with mine too. Like also on the level of people appreciating the hardships, they also really appreciate the wins. And it's so incredible for someone to say, I am proud of you, when they actually understand what you did and what it took to get to that point.
yeah,
Right.
you want to
Because
celebrate
there's-
with people.
and
Yeah,
have
and
people
there's,
who are
like,
willing
something-
to give those compliments.
Actually, I
right?
texted you and I said, when I made the decision to join the team, I was like, life's too short not to work with people that you want to work with.
Yeah.
Work with your friends. Like, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I did. I started a business with my best friend.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's going well so far. Right,
Yeah,
Daryl?
right, Daryl.
Yeah, he's over there holding
Sure.
Rachel's baby right now. What is it about real estate that keeps you doing it? What do you love about this job, this industry?
Yeah, after all of that, why do
Yeah,
you
why
do
are you
this?
still here?
What are you doing?
Why do it?
Yeah, I think for me, at the end of the day, like I genuinely love helping people buy and sell their homes. Like it is such a rewarding experience, even through all the crap that we go through throughout the day, helping somebody through like the biggest transaction of their life. And like you said, milestones, you know, whether it be a divorce or they're getting married or they're pregnant and they need to get a bigger home, like you connect with these people. And I joke, like you have these one-on-one conversations with people for sometimes months, and then their home closes and you're like, well, I actually miss them. And you want
Yeah.
to text them and you want to be like, I don't
Oh,
know.
I've made great friends
Yeah,
through
absolutely.
buying and
Just encourage them to keep having kids so they have to keep
Yeah.
buying a new house.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's different every day, and it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for everybody. And I think you'll know pretty quickly if this industry is for you or not. But generally speaking, I can pretty much say that I really love my job.
And we also get to have so much fun doing it, all working together. We get to stage houses together and decorate and take fun pictures and do things like this. So there's a lot of, other than for every bad deal, you know, there's equally as many incredible ones where you're the hero and everybody loves you. And it's a really just great feeling to help somebody through a, you know, otherwise challenging time in their life. So
How about you, Dom? What do you love about real estate? Why are you still here? You've been in it for a decade now.
I think I have
Close to,
a
sorry.
cortisol addiction. No, I do. I think now answering that question as a team leader and also an agent is I love just being part of people's lives, whether it's their successes, their stresses. I genuinely do love being that sponge. That's just my personality. I think I'll always be that way. I have not been great at setting boundaries with clients. Like if they're stressed and crying, FaceTime me. Like
No, I'm stressed and
not-
crying.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously that has its pros and cons, but I genuinely do just love connecting with people on a very intimate level all the time. Like that's
my husband
The most
watching this
important thing
later
to
is going
me.
to be like, you're setting boundaries with clients? I don't know if you do that.
yeah. So for me, I guess relationships to sum that all up.
And I think that's ultimately what this industry is, right? It's like, yes, you sell homes, yes, you do staging and you do the different services for that, but ultimately it's building relationships that are long-term. I think all the successful real estate agents establish those relationships because you're not just going to have one real estate deal in your life. You're going to have.
Well, and then that's why they're calling you back. And that's why
Yeah.
they're telling their friends to call you or their kids to call you. And because you're making friends.
Yeah.
So if you
Making
want
friends.
friends, if you need friends.
If you need friends, join real estate.
If anybody's looking for more information about your team, Dom, or EXP, where can they go?
Well, You can find me on Instagram at Dom the Realtor or our website, McIntyreRealEstateGroup.com.
Awesome.
We're all pretty easy to find on social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah. If you go to my profile, start clicking, you'll find them all.
Awesome. Well, thanks, ladies, for coming on. This was great.
Thanks for
Do it
having
again.
us.
That's it.
Sweet.
And that's a wrap.